And we're live. And this is Movie Watch Live. And this is a special episode of Movie Watch Live because it's approximately 1 year ago. It's actually more than 1 year since we started doing these shows. And with me tonight is Carl Hungus. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, Pete. It's great to be back for the triumphant return of Movie Watch Live.
Indeed it is. And I think 1 year ago today, 1 year and 1 month ago almost, we started these programs, and the first one we did was Excalibur. So there you go. Anything learned in all that time, Carl, if you look back at the last year?
Hopefully we've kind of gone beyond our boomerisms of the first few shows, and we're picking it up a notch here with your StreamYards that you got going on now. And it's time to move on and pick up the game a little bit. We've learned kind of the technical aspects of how to do this over the past year or so. And hopefully our audience has learned a little bit about some of the movies we've watched, some of the insights, common knowledge kind of stuff we share here. And hopefully everyone's kind of learned a little bit of something,
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, some successful videos we've done. Looking at the stuff we've done over the last year, the most popular stuff has been the Conan the Barbarian Movie Watch Live that we did quite some time ago now, 11 months ago, and that's now up to 55 or 56,000 views. We've got the longest day that we did 7 months ago.
Let's not gloss over the fact that 56,000 views is not too bad for a couple
it's
of.
It's not too shabby, is it? Really?
No idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
But no, Conan was probably one of our better shows. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch it, because it also really helps too when you're reviewing something you really like. And we both really dug. We all was all this anonymous with that one?
Yeah,
you came in late on that one. But the three of us, we all really dug that movie. So you can kind of see that in our narration of our watch. Because I mean, let's be honest, Pete. Over the past year, there have been some movies that you've liked a little bit more than I've liked, or I've liked a little more than you've liked. So it's fair to say that when we're all really that invested in the movie, it's going to be a good show. And this is one of those movies we're going to watch tonight, because one of the things we do is we kind of like to watch historical dramas and kind of put them into perspective of history. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't really like the kinds of historical movies that try to retell events, like your docudramas kind of movies, like Midway or Tora, or movies like that. I mean, those are good. They're all very good and fine movies. But the thing is that they're telling the story like verbatim, or trying to, or they should be, because they're trying to tell a historical thing that actually happened. And so a lot of those movies fall into the trap of tweaking history to tell a more interesting story, or in modern times to tell a more politically correct story, so to speak. But for me, the more interesting historical films are kind of the ones that take place in a time period in history that is sort of a plausible thing, because plot-wise, you're not worried about trying to maintain a strict historical sort of narration. Whereas the film we're about to watch tells a story of more of the time than a specific event. You know what I mean? Because you're looking at, we're going to watch the film about two men who are men of the time in which they live, right? They fully inhabit the time. They have the attitudes, the morals, and the traditions and views of the men of their time, which is often my beef with historical movies, where they're portraying historical figures or people that with power.
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you're seeing these guys acting as a man or men in their position at the time, gentlemen in their position, men of some standing in their society.
Yeah.
How the attitudes and morals and mannerisms that they would have had. So it kind of gives you a better perspective than seeing a movie about Queen Victoria. Because
That's it. I mean, it's based upon the one of my favorite authors, Joseph Conrad, who also wrote Heart of Darkness, which was the basis of Apocalypse Now. Everybody must know that. Well, most people do who are into movies and novels. But the original story was in 1908, called The Duel, a military story, also known as The Point of Honor. It was serialized. It was in 1908. It was written and serialized in Britain's Pall Mall magazine, but it was also serialized in America, I think in something called the Forum magazine. And so that was written in 1908 by Conrad, and Conrad had that understanding of military tradition. So he was looking back, another 80 years, 80, 90 years in the past. So it was still recent enough to get a good idea of what that period was like. So it is, we can imagine that a lot of this is because he was somebody who studied character. So a lot of this is more about the character, like you said, of these two men in the time that they are exhibiting the beliefs and opinions and passions that they would have had at the time, not trying to import some sort of liberal mentality from our age back into the past. So that's why I like the movie. And there's a lot of interesting points around it. It is a really good movie. And I think going back to the films that we've done, most of the successful ones have been around military stories. Like I said, The Longest Day, we got 44,000 views for that one.
Well, another thing that really helps with a film like this is when you have one of the true giants of modern cinema directing it, Ridley Scott, right?
Yeah.
With very few exceptions, most Ridley Scott movies are pretty damn good. His attention to detail and his method of storytelling is top notch in my opinion. Yeah. And so you're going to see. I actually have not seen this film, so I'm going to go into it with a fresh view. But I am biased towards liking Ridley Scott because there's just not. I like just about everything he does.
This is like.
I even liked what was it, the sequel to the Alien one? What was it? God, that horrible one.
Yeah, they did
Prometheus. I even liked that when it came out. So I mean, so I'm admitting now I'm biased towards Ridley Scott. Okay. But
I am as well. I am as well. Apart from the fact that he's a local boy as well. So another person from he's from my part of the world, so I'm biased for that reason as well. So he came from he was born according to the Wikipedia article saying South Shields, but he's definitely a Geordie anyway. I think he's a Geordie by adoption at least. But yeah, I mean, if you're South Shields, then you're definitely a Geordie. So anyway,
the only people that know what that actually means are from South Shields.
Yeah, that's right. So. But the really interesting thing about this movie with Ridley is it's his directing debut.
Oh, really?
And it was the first movie he ever did, and it's phenomenal for a first movie, for a debut directorial movie. It's unbelievable. And it sets the tone for everything he did, because just shortly after this, he did Alien, he did Blade Runner, and he just bang, 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 knocked them out of the park. And it's 1977 this came out, which is the same year as Star Wars. There's another sort of cultural reference point. So we'll get this started off now, because we could talk forever about all these different things. And just a little quick comment on how the channel's going. We're getting close to 300 subscribers, which some people would say, you should be far. But to be honest, considering my boomerisms for the last year, that's a big achievement. And the fact that these videos are not coming out every week, they are every now and then when we've got the time to do them. So without further ado, we'll get the movie started. So I'm watching it on Amazon. Amazon Prime, and
I've got it on,
Carradine
I've got it on YouTube Premium because I'm a snobby bitch.
So I'm going to, as usual, we're going to start the movie going, and if you want to synchronize with me and Carl, just be ready to press the play button on your where you're recording it after the countdown. So we normally count down 3, 2, 1, and then we say go, and then when we say go, you press the play button. So right, so I'll give the countdown. So it's 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, not touching anything. I better unmute it though. Oh, I have subtitles on. I don't really need the volume.
Yeah. Well,
is the music good?
It's absolutely brilliant. I'll tell you another thing. I would love.
I can already hear it. It's good. It's already good.
I'll let you enjoy it.
I hear the strings in there.
Now I've just seen Ridley Scott, directed by Ridley Scott, come at the screen. So I'm at a minute.
All right, hold on. I'm going to pause. I'll tell you right now. So Strasbourg 1800 just went away on the screen.
Yeah.
So you tell me when that fades away, and I'll hit unpause. That's
great. Yep. I'm up. That's so beautiful. So you get the little introduction there about which is the first part of the book. The short story, The Duel, by Conrad. So it just quotes that first bit there. And you've got you've got the first scene with the little girl herding the geese up the path there.
Peter Mac, you're supposed to tell me when you got to the point I was at. All right, I'm at the girl. She's herding the geese.
Yeah. And this is suddenly where normal life is interrupted because the girl's suddenly stopped by this cavalry soldier who stares at her with disgust almost, because it's keep out of the way. In this beautiful scene here, and this is just outside the town, where a duel is just about to take place, and the cinematography here is fantastic. These are these rapiers they're using.
I can't tell. I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
They're small swords. The small sword is the development of the rapier. It developed basically from the court sword of the late early 1700s. Became pretty common in the 1700s. There's variations on them as well. Particularly the Kolichmard, made famous by George Washington, is a type of small sword. But these were typically used for duels. Rapiers had gone out of fashion for that by this time. They're also a lot lighter than a rapier, a lot easier to use, faster, a lot more stabby than a rapier. Although a rapier is very stabby, you can also slash with them. But these are purpose made for stabbing, and pretty common for this is what they've used for duels.
Yeah. And incredible poise there from Harvey Keitel.
Also, look at the uniform he's wearing. Look at where he's wearing his trousers. That is how men wore their trousers basically until the end of World War II.
Yep.
At the naval.
Yep.
It's actually, and if you actually have worn your trousers that way, if you've actually worn any historical garb or historical uniforms or anything, it's actually much more comfortable too.
Yeah. Right, I've just got the part where he sliced his hand because he tried to grab the sword.
All right, well.
And this is where the guy loses it. Oh, and straight through the chest.
Fast forward.
Leaves the sword in him. Are you at that point now?
No, I just left the sword in him, yes. And he's fed up with it. He walks away.
Because it wasn't much of a duel. Because that's what he cares about. That sword was made out of a car aerial, the blade bit at the end.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, so that they could push it in and make it look like it's going through. So this...
he's in the officer's salon now. Is that what that is?
Yep. Now, by the way, Howard Blake was the composer of the music. Okay. So, but this is the general who's obviously the other character by Keith Carradine. Yes, he's talking about the duel. He's found out of the duel.
Yeah, he dueled with the mayor's nephew and wounded him grievously, if not killed him.
Exactly.
We don't quite know yet. So you'll notice that they have a distinctive uniform and hairstyle, which was indicative of the hussars. Which basically hussars originated in the 1500s and 1600s in Hungary from the light horsemen utilized by the Hungarians and Croatians.
Yeah.
And it became fashionable in the 1600s and 1700s for the armies of Europe to field hussars as light infantry. Or not light, sorry, light cavalry, not light infantry.
But the costumes are absolutely amazing, aren't they? I mean, and the style of them, they're trying to be as authentic as possible. So, like the pigtails down the side.
If you look at all the braid on the front of the uniform, that was also indicative of the hussar, and that little cape, that kind of like short jacket cape kind of thing he has on, was also very indicative of the hussars. And each individual hussar regiment would have its own color scheme and uniform, basically.
So this is Armand Dubert, played by Keith Carradine, and the guy we saw earlier is Gabriel Feraud. Now, the general he was just talking to earlier, General Treillard, was played by Robert Stevens. Now, Robert Stevens is one of those old English actors who have a fantastic voice, but didn't do a lot of work. So the character of Armand Dubert has been tracking down Feraud to bring him in because he's been dueling. He wants to put him in a house arrest, so he's tracking him down. This is how they end up. The feud begins between Dubert and Feraud because Feraud takes it personally that Dubert is doing this, and so Feraud is hanging out in this salon of a very fashionable lady of the time.
She's not bad looking.
She's not bad at all. And
she's kind of like got that like 1920s flapper look to her.
Yeah. Well, it's Madame Lyon, played by Jenny Runacre. I've never heard of that actress before, but this is the polite society. So he's pretending like nothing ever happened. He's already killed somebody in the morning, and this is a prominent person he's killed. It's the mayor's son, I believe, that he's just killed.
Right. So he's you can see right now that they kind of have this conflicting sort of worldview, whereby Harvey Keitel makes dueling is like part of his life. It's a thing he does, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, for the two different characters are very different. The character of Dubert is from the north of France and quite cultured and very level-headed. Gabriel Feraud is much more from working class, and he's from further south in the country, Gascony, and he's very passionate. And Bonaparte is his man because for him, Bonaparte has brought him up through society. Whereas for the other character, Dubert, he was fairly middle class to start with.
Right. So from the beginning, he's got a chip on his shoulder. I'm sorry. There's I think that's General Blucher.
General Blucher von Rittenhouse.
All right. I told him to go back to Prussia. He's all right.
Yeah. So here he's finding a reason to be offended. Because this is something that comes back later on in the movie, because he makes something up about Dubert insulting Napoleon, but it was never anything to do with that.
Right.
So he's doing everything he can to get Lieutenant Dubert angry here.
Right. I don't understand how there's such ill discipline in the French army. Because I mean, if this was going on, this guy'd be drummed out pretty damn quick.
Yeah, I think he's a kind of character who is so passionate and positive about the Emperor that he's a sort of champion of the people. So, and he's so such an evangelist for Napoleon that that's probably why he's popular. And he's popular with the men as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'd be popular with the officer corps above him, especially if he starts cutting up or killing other qualified and well-trained officers that are needed elsewhere.
So here we see the first duel in the back garden, a pretty impromptu but passionate, like they just start to scrap with each other. What do you think of the poses and the fight moves here?
I'm looking at it.
These are sabers.
Yeah, they are using sabers. They're not using small swords. They're not really fighting. Well, yeah, they are. You can see their posture. That's kind of like the saber posture you want to have, but I'm not seeing them using the actual forms or anything you're supposed to use, like the specific guards. Right? Oh, there's a good one. That's a good one right there. Now they have the upper one that's angled down.
Yep.
That is a legit saber guard.
Yeah. The thing about Ridley Scott is he does attempt to get some sort of authenticity in his movies. Right. And this is his first movie, so he really wanted to impress. But the other thing about the fight, he's caught him on the arm there and then punched him on the nose with the nice still life there. This is the doctor.
Yeah, he basically punched him in the face with the hilt of the sword. Perfectly good move. That's part of the reason it's why it's there.
Exactly. To just
protect your hand, but also to punch a mother effer in the face.
Yeah. And this is Tom Conti, fantastic Scottish actor, who's playing Dr.Jacquin, who's like the military doctor attached to their unit. Wasn't it? It was just off the cuff. They weren't really thinking. They were just attacking each other, angry.
Right.
It's that sort of sets the scene though, and opens it up for all the other duels that take place.
So now they're talking about Feraud, about he had fought a duel in the morning. I imagine this must be a problem for these guys, for their superior officers, for their company commanders and their brigade commanders and stuff. I mean, you can't have a guy like that. Really kind of screws up the whole thing, you know.
Yeah,
you can't have that kind of a guy, especially in a position of authority as a lieutenant. So he does.
This is
people, but a guy like that gets people killed.
Yeah, this is why at the beginning of the story, Duber's sent to put a stop to it, because the general, in this instance, General Treillard, is extremely annoyed that this is going on. And there's General Treillard again. And he's sort of paying the price and now loses his commission because he was attached. Well, his appointment, I should say, he was attached to the general and his staff. And obviously, as you know, a lot of this was career military people who were hoping to go through the ranks.
Well, and a lot of you have to remember the nepotism as well. You know, getting the sons of gentlemen would get officer's position regardless of competency, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so I don't know. You also got to kind of wonder what the French Revolution really did to the French military. A lot of those higher ups were put to the guillotine and stuff, so you lose a generation of military knowledge, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the shift of power going on continually because it happens in the state. when Napoleon was eventually, when he was defeated, and then you've got the Royalists coming back, and then you've got the return of Napoleon, and the Royalists trying to get out the country again, and then you've got the eventual defeat at Waterloo, and then you've got the reassignment. And France was like that; it was backwards and forwards for decades between different factions.
Well, if there's one thing we know about the French, right? It's when they do something, they do it, and when they do it, they overreact.
And then, well, you've got today where
I was just going to say that's a pretty damn. I mean, it's only going to stay like it is today for so long before it looks like 1792.
It's going to go. It's going to change again because their constitutional system has run out of steam. Which is an interesting comparison between France and America, because they both became, republics around the same time. And it'd be an interesting study to compare the two countries, because they're both republics, but America seems to have got it right, and France seems to have not got it right, to be polite.
The problems we're having right now is because we let it get out of hand. And part of everything that's going on that we're dealing with in terms of, let's just say, the overarching politics of the United States is because we're trying to get it back under control.
Mm-hmm. True.
And so, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, France is a lost cause, though. But I mean, they've gone republic to dictatorship to a republic to a monarchy back to a republic. So I mean, they're all over the place. At that time, I mean, they have not been consistently a republic the entire time. I don't recall there being elections for Napoleon. An emperor is not something you get really elected to.
No.
So their track record with a true Republican form of government is spotty at best.
Indeed. There's that fantastic score by Howard Blake again.
Look at the architecture. Where was this filmed?
All over France, actually.
Okay, so they did like a Western France, Low Countries kind of a thing, and filmed it all up in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're at Augsburg, 1801. What happened at Augsburg? That was a biggie.
Was that
Battle of Augsburg? Now, that was one of the defining moments for Napoleon. It was a decisive victory for Otto the First, the Great. Oh no, that's 955. Forget that one. Where's the Napoleonic battle here? Ninth of October, 1805. Now, just in the previous scene there, the doctor asked Dubert what was the duel about, and he said something to do with, like he said, call it a cavalry skirmish. So already, like a lot of feuds, already nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Right.
This is where, and she was really pretty in her day, this actress.
Who's Laura to this guy?
But here we have an old flame. Now this is one of the women who would be found with the armies.
Camp follower.
Traveling military lady.
She be a camp follower?
Yeah. Now this is she was quite. I think it's Diane Quick. I'll just check. Yeah, Diane Quick plays Laura. Now she was actually dating Albert Finney at the time, who was also in the movie. Albert Finney, amazing actor. Bless him, he's passed on now. He plays Fouché.
She is but a healthy girl.
She is. I was going to say, this scene here shows a lot of healthiness. The lighting, again, do you notice with Ridley Scott? He's setting the tone. Think about how this lighting is, the kind of lighting is used in Blade Runner and how it's used in Alien. A lot of really knows how to use, light and shade and color.
Right.
But here's Diane Quick showing how much she adores Lieutenant Duel.
He's a handsome guy. Give him
So,
that.
and you got to give Ridley this. We're 20 minutes in, and he's already dishing out the sauce.
Well, here's the thing. Hussars were like the rock stars of the military world in their day, right? They were the coolest guys. They had the best uniforms. They had the most daring, the bravest, and so they were legitimately women who were groupies for hussars. This is a verifiable historical fact. Look it up, audience. But it's funny. So that's like one of the and it's actually cited as one of the reasons that some young men wanted to join the hussars, because they got all the girls.
Exactly.
And look at that snappy uniform. You have the sash. You have the little cape over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you get to carry the nice saber.
Exactly. We're on to duel number 2 now, just outside the grounds of looks like a country maison there. And this is Gabriel Feraud's preferred type of land or ground, because it's mentioned later on in the movie that the ground is no good for the final duel that they fight, but he likes this kind of thing, like an open flat field, like a football field or whatever. And this is preferred. So this is a second duel. I think there's 6 altogether in the movie.
So is this between the two of them again?
Yeah. So this time, I believe
how did this one happen? I missed that. How did I miss that?
Well, he's caught up with them in the town.
We're not done.
So
no.
Yeah. So, I mean, cut him and punched him in the nose with the hilt of his sword, and so this is it. This is duel number 2. He's caught up with him in Augsburg.
Such an unreasonable fucker.
He's nuts. It's a perfect actor to play the part. Here, watch the points. This is one of the most famous scenes. There's the hand guard there. You see the glove on there.
He's got the
poise. And this is a brilliant bit here. Watch this.
Now they're using small swords.
And one moment.
Psych him out.
He needed to sneeze. See, because that does happen.
Well, it's also he's playing with his opponent mentally. He's making him wait. He's messing with his timing, and so it almost becomes like a rivalry between their 2 units, doesn't it? Because you see that he's got 2 of his boys with him. He's got 2 of his boys with him.
Exactly. So
now it becomes what, the 3rd Hussars versus whatever.
Yeah.
And so now they're in. Now, see, I'm not as familiar with small sword fencing. Is basically modern fencing.
Right.
All right. So modern fencing is based on actually using small swords, and I'm not quite as familiar with the use of the small sword as I am, say, the saber and the back sword or the broadsword, all the other fine things.
You see how quick that was? That was about 10 seconds. He's caught him already, just with the tip of the sword. As you well know, you only need to go in 1 inch, don't you, to kill somebody?
No, I think technically it's about 1 inch and 3/4 or 2 inches or something like that. But yeah, that's a wound that's going to hurt really bad. He can survive it. He probably has a punctured lung.
Yeah. So
which is not good. The problem with it,
he's not going to die, so the fight has to come to an end. So of course, as you can imagine, Gabriel Feraud is most angry about that.
He shouldn't be, because honor was satisfied technically.
Well, no, not in terms of Gabriel Feraud's mind, because Gabriel Feraud wants him dead.
He is bloody crazy, so keep that in mind.
Yeah. On the left there, we
recognize him. We recognize him.
Yeah, you might recognize that's Alan Armstrong.
From he was in Crawl with it was Crawl, right?
That's right. He was in Crawl. All roads lead to Crawl, Carl.
Well, I just mentioned Crawl because that's something we have watched on the channel before.
That's true though. But yeah, fantastic actor. He's been in some really good stuff. I think one of the most recent stuff he's done is Frontier, the TV series about Canada, which also has what's his name, Aquaman, Jason Momoa.
And look, even Gabriel's compatriots here are trying to convince him that honor has been satisfied and there's no need to continue with his lunacy. And this crazy little Gascon nut, can't handle that.
Exactly. So say, I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
I mean, that sounds like something that should require a military court of inquiry.
Yeah, well, this is showing as well that at certain times in history, wars give license for psychopaths to fulfill their desires. Because it is a lot of war is, in my opinion anyway, psychopathic. This is where his erstwhile lover looks after him, nurses him back to health.
The only bad thing is that if you look at the steam, it's not coming from inside the tub; it's coming from outside the tub.
Yeah, that's true, but we can give him that mistake.
I'll give him that.
We'll give him that. It's his first movie. He's doing great.
See, for the close shot, you can't tell. He should have done that wide shot right there.
Let's put it this way: he's doing better than Ryan Johnson.
That wide shot was a mistake. This shot right here, he maintained that would have been, you never would have known.
Yeah, true. So you can see he's ill. So it wasn't just if you got hit in these days.
He's not bad away. I mean, that's a puncture wound. It's not like he sterilized the tip of the sword before he stabbed him with it either.
Well, exactly. So you've got to recover from the wound. You've got to recover from the infection as well.
Yeah, this is the day where tetanus kills people.
Mm.
And I guarantee they obviously had no vaccine for it, and they sure as hell didn't know about germological, sterilization kind of stuff.
Mm.
I mean, they didn't even realize that until after the Civil War. So
yeah,
it's in a bad way.
You asked me about the location. It had a limited budget. The film was shot entirely on location in France, England, and Scotland. So it was France, England, and Scotland. No sets or buildings were built at all. Every building in the movie was an actual existing structure. Now, I think that makes it better.
Yeah, it makes it better.
So here we have them all sitting in a cafe. He's recovered. And I love the way it's all set up here in front of the window. So we can see out of the window while in the midst of them just relaxing finally. Look what comes along down the street.
Bloody psychopath.
Right in the middle of them.
I haven't quite gotten there. Oh, here he comes.
Some guys walking down the road there, outside the window of the cafe. And Alan Armstrong's character has just seen him there. So that's... Yeah, so he's telling him to leave by the back lane. So now it's got the stage where he's having to continually run away, feels tormented now, like it's a curse.
He's getting his saber honed and sharpened.
And he can't say no. He has to go ahead with these challenges.
As honor dictates.
Quick there again with very glamorous.
And looking very glamorous and very healthy.
Indeed.
No, I see no more ambiguity here. No moral ambiguity.
Mm. In his opinion, obviously, he believes fully in his philosophy, which is that he has to honor the challenge because he's an honorable person. So this is where his erstwhile lover goes to visit the enemy of her lover, goes to visit Gabriel Feraud to try and persuade him to stop with all of this madness. Does that work? Well, we find out, don't we?
They're gonna follow her back, don't
Yeah.
they?
Going back to the soundtrack as well, you know, they were determined to have Howard Blake for the soundtrack, and apparently Ridley Scott said to Howard, "Don't worry about, you know, the soundtrack melody for the end of the movie. We'll just extend the last scene long enough for you to fit your melody into it."
Right. Now she's trying to basically psychoanalyze him, see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is
nasty blood-sucking louse.
So she's trying to call him out because for one thing, Dubert's too honourable to basically tell Feraud what he really is.
Right.
And this is, yeah, this is where Diane Quick's character, Laura, sort of lets us in a little bit into the military world of the day. You know, where they're talking about real lives, people who are real people who lost arms and legs and left the army.
It's easy, like, to read history books and stuff, and as we go further and further away from the Napoleonic War, it gets more and more distant and less real to us.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to fathom that, you know, it was real people that were doing this and living through these things.
Yeah, and trying to survive, trying to make a living, trying to stay alive.
You know what really boggles the modern mind is these kinds of people living through one of the most destructive wars of its century, and at the same time, they're living in a world where you get sick from the common cold, you can die.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of diseases they don't know about.
There's nowhere to wipe your ass, really. You know, and you maybe have 2 or 3 nice sets of clothes if you're well-to-do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of puts that in perspective. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. This character here, this actor, who's helping Dubert train. That's an excellent bit there. Always on the watch. On the watch, sir.
What is up with his eyeballs? There's something strange about
He's
that
lost
man.
all his teeth as well, but that's real. That was him. What was his name again?
Now you can see she's talking with the ladies at. Does she hold a job at like a military shop or something?
She goes to get a reading here.
Okay, so the reading. Okay, so she's talking to the ladies about this. And now the story's going to start to spread, huh?
Yeah, this actress here. What's her name again? Liz Smith. That's it. She was in a lot of stuff in those days. But you know, just Diane Quick was such a beautiful lady when she was young, and even though it's of the era, you can tell the makeup and everything is still 1980s, can't you? You can see it's 77, but it's like late 70s, early 80s. It's still got
her. She's got that late 70s hairstyle.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a little bit. I mean, you know, there's always going to be a little bit of bleed over, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good way of putting it. As she adorns her lips with, I think, blood to make it look red because she can't afford lipstick. And you'll like this bit. Instead of writing a note, She writes it. Oh yeah, she's got like a dye there. Yeah, this is before the days of lipstick. They used just dye, I think, out of a
Yeah,
pot.
they had dye for their lips and stuff.
And
It was a paste.
on the sword.
Well, let's see what it says.
Because she realizes that it's never going to amount to anything. So she says goodbye and leaves. So he has not a happy life.
Yeah, I imagine it wouldn't be a happy life.
I think she's seen so much of the horror. By following the army closely, she's seen too much of the horror of warfare, you see. And she doesn't know whether he's going to live, and she can't stand the idea of him dying as well. Here is number 3. Yep. And this is back to Sabers in close quarters inside looks like a wine cellar.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really gory move here coming up.
The wine cellar or the undercroft of a church or something, huh?
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah. Almost gets him there. They're really tired, but they're still... This is a point where both of them have got into the zone where they're training all the time.
And if you notice also, each progressive fight, there's more and more spectators.
Yeah, and it's getting more savage as well, and more serious every time.
More personal.
Sparks there, by the way. They attached batteries to the swords to make them spark. And Harvey Keitel says apparently several times he got a serious electrical shock
I bet.
during the film of the movie. So they're really getting exhausted now. And it just gets to the point where...
Ooh, right across the shoulder.
Yeah, you go, there you go. Ah, just hacked him.
Oh, that flap is hanging on.
It's flopping around as well. Oh. You have to get that scene too.
The fight would have been over by this point for me. I'd have been done.
Yeah, he's probably can't even feel it. He's that tired.
Yeah, he's adrenaline. He's up on adrenaline, and when you do get those kinds of injuries, I mean, I've gotten cut pretty good at work. Maybe nothing that bad, but I've gotten cut pretty good at work. You don't feel it at first.
Yeah. So just what you were talking about before, the difference in regiments. Duber's got a third Hussars regiment. Feraud has the 7th. I think there was 12 regiments of Hussars in Napoleon's army at its height. So
probably now, yeah.
Duber's in the 3rd, Feraud's in the 7th. And yeah, like you were saying, they did regard themselves as the elite of the cavalry. But a lot of them just saw them as reckless wild cards, which was the reference before. You know how she was reading the tarot cards.
Right.
That was like a symbolism for the Hussars themselves, because they were considered to be like wild cards, devil-may-care attitudes, attracted to the ladies.
And now he has an audience with the general again.
There we go.
Let's see how this goes.
But they had this fiercely guarded code of honor, which you couldn't be a Hussar if you weren't crazily about following the code.
Yeah, they kind of considered themselves to be the modern knights of their time. Mm-hmm. And they kind of were. They were. Think about it. They were the 18th and 19th century. They were the knights of that period. They came from middle class gentry or lower nobility. They were obviously mounted warriors, so yeah, it fits. Mm-hmm. They're also crazy.
Yeah. So this is where the general's basically asking for information. He's saying, I can't tell you, it's a question of honor. And the general's trying to put him into his place to stop dueling. And he's promoted him to captain.
And he can now command his own troop, which would have been the equivalent of a company.
Exactly. It was such a plus that they used real buildings to film this movie. It would not have anywhere near the atmosphere if they'd used sets.
You're absolutely right. I mean, just look at the text. You can feel the texture of the walls just by looking at that. You know, I mean, it's got that velvet cover. They've got the velvet wallpaper on there.
Yeah,
and it conveys shadow and stuff. Yeah, you could not do that with a set. And the streets of old Lubeck here, huh? Probably not Lubeck. That's probably Edinburgh right there.
It could be.
Probably Edinburgh. Oh, he's going to one of those places, Pete. Parental guidance suggested.
I mean, this is. You can hear a hurdy-gurdy as well in the background. That's what that sound is. So this is the best bar in town. And
Soldier's Bar, look at that.
Yeah.
Plenty of women, plenty of drink, and a hurdy-gurdy man.
Yeah, the hurdy-gurdy man. He's living the high life again. And it's just when things get really enjoyable that they start to turn to shit again.
Oh my God, it shows back up.
Yeah, it's going to be another duel coming soon. Apparently, one of the things that Ridley was using as inspiration was the photography of Barry Lyndon, who did was trying to mimic luscious paintings of the past and of the period. So he did really attempt to bring in the look of that era. And he's just found out he's just got ahead and was really happy because a lieutenant can't duel a captain. But now he's found out that Feraud's now been promoted to captain as well. So guess what? The duel's back on.
Yeah, it goes back to the notion of you know, you can't really duel someone who's below your rank because it's beneath you, or it's the same kind of reason why a knight would never fight a peasant in a duel.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So is that same sort of notion, and that goes back to the old European caste system.
You might be interested in this. According to Ridley Scott and Keith Carradine, Harvey, Keitel, they all insisted upon using real saber swords. They were the same swords used by French hussars in the first part of the movie. They're English 1798 pattern light cavalry sabers. So
that's one of my favorite sabers, actually. It's a very unique pattern. It has a very wide sweep to it. And it became the basis of what the Germans adopted and called the Blucher sword, which they adopted after Waterloo and continued to use that same style of sword up through World War I.
Yeah. So here's Laura back again. She has been following his progress. Now,
oh, that's too bad. Her other boyfriend died of typhus?
Yeah, died of typhus. And this is a very unhappy life she's got.
And it's sad. And unfortunately, that's probably the life that a lot of the folks that followed the army had. There's not many prospects for them beyond, you know, being a washerwoman or a prostitute or hoping to find a decent man to marry.
Yeah. And she is in love. She is in love with Dubert, but she just wants to get out of it altogether.
He makes my point right there. He says there's only grief to be gotten by following soldiers.
Exactly. Apparently the bit where she laughs when in just a moment here wasn't part of the script. Oh, actually, it's early in the movie. It wasn't part of the script. She couldn't keep a straight face, apparently, one of the scenes where she was talking to Keith Carradine. So back to Alan Armstrong. And
He recently passed away, didn't he?
um
I remember reading something.
no, I
I'll
think
look.
you might be thinking of no, you're thinking of the actor
Oh
who
no,
played.
he's still alive. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, yeah.
apologize, Alan.
There's a very similar actor to him.
Don't pull a Braveheart and hit me in the head with a ball and chain.
I think you might be thinking of let's have a look. You're thinking of possibly Pete Postlethwaite.
That might be kind of a similar look.
Yeah, I used to get them confused all the time.
It's a similar nose and face, huh?
Yeah, they are very similar actors. Alan Armstrong was also in Get Carter as well all those years ago with around this era actually with Michael Caine.
Wasn't he also in Ice Pirates or something, or Space Pirates, something like that?
Oh, probably.
No, that was someone else.
Theater at
I
moment.
remember he's in a bunch of those weird 80s sci-fi movies, wasn't he?
Yeah. So here we go. This is coming up. This is now duel number 4.
Here we go. Look at the countryside. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Huh? This is now, we're now going to duel on horseback with sabers. So this duel,
yeah, you got to mix it up a bit, right?
So this is it's sort of escalating time after time, you know.
I gotta tell you though, the 7th Hussars have a snappier uniform. It really is much nicer than the 3rd Hussars.
That guy there at the table with a glass of wine and that sort of like quarter-shaped helmets. Incredible, some of the designs.
Yeah, yeah. Those types of helmets, I think Lancers tended to wear those types of helmets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Lancer's helmet. I'm not sure why the one guy has a bear skin. That's a different style than everyone else's.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear that low bass thud? That's exactly the kind of
stuff
he uses in Blade Runner.
Right, yeah. That note.
Yeah, that boom really capture you, and he's trying to get you to think about heartbeats, you know, because this is the moment where, and this is my opinion anyway, but Armand Duber's got to the point where he's going to go insane, right? He's now suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because this has just gone so he's been on the point of
shaking and everything.
Yeah, he's had to go through this psychotic madness because the other guy's a madman. He's had to go through this so many times that he's just can't take it anymore. At this point, he can't take it anymore. He's staring down the barrel, staring down the end of a saber blade, and he just can't take this anymore. He's not a snowflake. He's had it. It's just going on forever.
Well, think about it. He's living his life not knowing if tomorrow this lunatic's going to catch up with him and make him fight again.
This is it.
And who among us wouldn't be kind of like, how long do I have to deal with this guy?
Yeah.
And he's at the point where he's
saber charge. And he's remembering all the other times he's had to duel. And just everything.
He's running through it. He's getting it out now. He's getting the fear out now.
And the anger. And finally, some victory. He's caught.
Oh, look at that. He opened up the top.
Yeah, he caught Feraud on the forehead.
Oh, right at the crown of his head, and it keeps opening up as the fake blood spurts out. But it is gory and it is glorious.
And he leaps over the haystack, the hay wagon.
Oh yeah, he just got a victory.
Finally, a bit of victory. Finally, he can now breathe a sigh of relief. But this tells him that
he's capable of doing it. He can
exactly.
Do it.
He's capable of beating Feraud.
See what he had to do. That scene right there, that was brilliant by Ridley Scott, where it interplayed what he was actually doing with
Yeah.
him psyching himself up for it, because you can see him. He's getting that fear out the moment before he has to go do it, and then because you don't see the fear when he's charging forward, you don't
Yeah.
see it. He
Exactly.
got rid of it so he can do it.
And here we are on the moment where it all started to unravel for Napoleon. The Russian campaign, 1812. And these soldiers are frozen solid. And this is the point where sort of the weather symbolizes what's going on in the story. Napoleon's campaign is starting to freeze. It's starting to come to an end. And the soldiers are as well. And also the duel between the two characters. How can you duel in these conditions? It's all about honor. Well, look at the state of these soldiers. How can you have honor when people are dying of starvation and gangrene and all sorts of things?
This is what's left of Le Grand Armée, right? So,
and this happened over and over again, didn't it? It happened to other armies throughout history who ended up trying to attack Russia and just totally defeated.
Well, that depends, because the Poles did a pretty good job on Russia in their time, and so did the Hungarians, the Mongolians did a pretty good job on Russia.
That's true. Well, we'll limit that to.
I'd say people outside of the horse cultures of Europe, have trouble on Russia.
Yeah.
Or the horse cultures of the world, basically.
So there's people losing fingers and stuff.
Yeah, it's terrible conditions. It's said he lost about 2 million men in March or something.
Now he's just identified sitting right across the way, even in this place, and he's seen him as well. Even in this place, they've seen each other across the fire. And here he goes again. Even in these conditions, all that matters to him. It's the duel. And interestingly enough, I was talking about Conrad and the films that's inspired. Harvey Keitel was only available for this movie because he'd been released from his contract on Apocalypse Now.
Oh, who was he going to play in Apocalypse Now?
Good question, actually.
I bet he was going to play the photographer.
Harvey Keitel.
Maybe not. Probably not. I'm probably wrong. But he's been promoted again, hasn't he? He's not captain anymore.
There must have been. I think they're now colonels.
Oh, boy. These guys. Parallel careers. So they're almost like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. So, see, now. So this is the irrepressible Gabriel Feraud, who's telling, an army that's dying to step up and go into the wood and find Cossacks, because it's all about heroic daring do, because he's a zealot, for want of a better word,
and a complete psychopath.
Yeah, and it really was a call to Dubert. He did it to call Dubert out, because Dubert is also a hussar. So
right,
if he hadn't stepped up, then that's another thing that Feraud could have used against him.
Oh, we're gonna try pistols this time, huh?
So now we've moved on to pistols.
You're right. Every single one's upping the ante a little bit, upping the deadly factor.
But we don't know.
And they're not screwing around. They got 2 pistols each. So
yeah, we still don't know if Feraud is going to actually offer to duel him at this point. We don't know what's going to happen. This is a really good scene. The atmosphere, the photography is brilliant.
Just the landscape is brilliant. Look at that.
I love his boots as well. And just incredible photography. Absolutely amazing. And that's the old look behind you. Hello. It's a Cossack. And I don't know what Vigolodny means, but the amount of times I've watched this movie, right, what I think it is, I think it's human flesh, right? He's eating dead Frenchmen. That's why. Oh, there you go. Shot him right in the heart.
I haven't seen it yet.
Time there.
Oh, that's liver. He shot him in the liver.
Yeah. Well, I think the Cossacks were thinking they were knacked, so they would just surround them and kill them.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
Pistols next time. So, yeah, definitely pistols next time. So what do you think so far, this movie, Carl?
It's fun. You know, it's fast-paced enough that's not dwelling on any single one because it's cut up in the vignettes of, like, their little time.
Yeah.
It kind of moves fast. So I like fun. And the quality of the cinematography is great. It's beautiful to look at.
It's great, isn't it? That's
not
Scotland.
It's not overly done with dialogue either. There's not too much dialogue, and it gets the point across. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah, they can celebrate, and he's offering him a drink, right? But even now, he snubs him. See that? Just looks at him, like, with no respect.
And there's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. You can still want to kill a man,
exactly,
but respect him as a warrior, right?
Exactly, because what you've got is Armand Dubert is honorable but chivalrous as well. He believes in honoring things and doing the right thing, and but Feraud is just there to exercise revenge on everybody he can.
Yeah, so he kind of represents the kind of guy that uses the system to his advantage, because he uses the fact that he can't be prosecuted for dueling a man of his position who, quote unquote, insults him. And by the way, he gets to determine who insults him. So he uses that system for him to get his petty angst / chip on his shoulder off.
Yeah. And as Dubert stares at this frozen French cavalryman sitting here frozen solid, and the strap of his helmet's just rattling around against his frozen head. Mm-hmm. This is the point at which Dubert realizes this is pointless. All of this honor for someone who's led them down this path.
All right, so I have 2 points to make. Now they're in tours, but 2 points. First of all, to your point that you just made, the fact that the soldier looked a lot like Dubert. So he was almost like the Luke in the cave scene where he's looking into his own face.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be me frozen if I continue down this path.
Yes.
And the other thing is my point about Feraud is that he grifts the system. He utilizes the system to get off on hurting other people, whereas Dubert is coming from, he utilizes the system, yes, but he's doing it. He's honoring the system. He's living by the system as opposed to like using the system's rules to further his own kind of ends. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like I said, two sides of the same coin. What you're seeing here is the early 19th century gentleman class, the French gentleman class, from two sides, where one is very genteel and sort of a reluctant warrior, and the other one is using his power how he wants to because he can. So he got with his girl finally, huh?
These are actually based on real characters as well, Carl.
Are they really?
Apparently, they fenced their first duel in 1794. The loser gentlemanly demanded a rematch. However, there was not just one more duel. There were 30 more duels.
Wow.
Conducted over nearly the next 20 years afterwards. The two officers fought in a variety of ways, horse-mounted, on foot, with sabers, rapiers, swords. So this is like a scaled-down version of something which was even more fantastical. So when Conrad wrote the story, he was basing it on a true military, well-known story of real characters.
That makes it even better.
Yeah. So it's got real pedigree, the story.
Right. And again, how can you couldn't build a set that looks like that
Yeah.
Is that a modern fence though? No.
No, but I mean, this is Gentlemen About the Countryside, and now we've reached like the sort of the days of Beethoven and polite society. Things are starting to calm down. The royalty's been restored in a sort of showy way.
It's a very nice chateau.
A very nice chateau, and this is the young lady of the area who his sister's trying to get him to be interested in, trying to get him to settle down.
Oh, so the redhead is his sister?
Redhead's his sister, I think, and she's trying to matchmake him, and he thinks he's a bit long in the tooth, and he's just a silly old veteran, and
right,
who would be interested in him. So this is the young lady's father. He used to be an aristocrat, and he's now...
Oh, he's a general now.
Yeah.
He bears a general. Wow, that's...
Yeah, imp of Satan can't claim to be one of his major demons. Oh, he's very much anti-Napoleonic now. This is where are we now? I'm trying to remember the actor.
So he's now a cobbler. He used to be an aristocrat. Now he's a cobbler.
Now he's a cobbler.
So he's one of those land-rich, money-poor aristocrats.
Yes. So this is the difference: the revolution, and then the post-revolution, the restoration. But with the restoration, you have the upper class really becoming more middle class, and realizing that they've got to be much more egalitarian.
Take up a trade, because
exactly.
The peasants aren't always going to support you.
Yeah, make yourself look good to the peasants.
Well, I mean, they made their money off of rents and everything, right? But I can't imagine many people could pay the rents.
No,
during
exactly.
the war, after the war.
And the constant dueling that you watch throughout the movie, right? How they're constantly having duels and fight scenes.
Uh-huh.
I was watching this and thinking, that reminds me of Highlander.
Mm-hmm.
They're forced into having duels.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? And it's one after another. Now, I've just read information here that confirms that, because the screenwriter, Gregory Wyden, said in an interview that this film was his inspiration behind Highlander.
Oh, she's not bad looking.
Oh yeah, a frog. But yeah, that's interesting. This film inspired Highlander.
Excuse me, pardon me.
If you like Iron Maiden, they did a song called "The Duellists," which was inspired from this movie.
Yep, that was from 1984 album Power Slave.
Power Slave, yep. And that's why they wrote it. They watched this movie, they loved the movie, so they wrote the song.
And that's the great thing about Iron Maiden, is that they write about literature, they write about music, they write about movies, they write about history.
So this is his young love, Adèle, played by Cristina Rains.
And these are his nieces and nephews, the little ones?
Yeah. So he's basically, it's the old scripture of, I will restore the years of locusts have eaten. Mm-hmm. So, you know how his life was wasted for so many years because what we thought would be a dazzling military career ended up being horror after horror, and he didn't think he'd ever find happiness.
Right.
Suddenly his life it's like he's young again. It's like a second go, you know?
Right. And if you think about his life, all he's ever known of women is like, the girl that was following the army around and prostitutes in Brussels and things like that,
I think they had to do this scene a few times because the horse was a bit hyper. Oh, by the way, Michael York and Oliver Reed were the actual first choices Ridley Scott had for the lead.
Amazing. Could you imagine that if you had that those two?
They were unavailable, but can you imagine if Dubert was played by Michael York and Feraud was played by Ollie Reed?
I just want Feraud to be played by Ollie Reed.
Yeah, I mean Keitel does a fantastic job. I mean, he has that real sort of crazy arrogance, that he gets it across.
Absolutely, it would have been a different movie. But how great would it have been if Dubert's girlfriend went in to go visit Feraud and to measure him up, and Ollie Reed is sitting there and he goes, "What do you want, big tits?"
Ollie Reed would have given it a different thing. He would have given it gravitas of because Ollie Reed, when he played a baddie, you just really came across that this man.
He was a method actor, wasn't he? He kind of he kind of got into the role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting guy. I've only really been. I have to credit you, Peter. Only recently been introduced to the larger body of his work by by a discussion we had on a private stream one night.
Yes, indeed. Ollie Reed is a source of endless entertainment.
I kind of like Dubert's sister, I gotta tell you.
Oh yeah, she's quite pretty as well.
So now he's going to take up the life of a country gentleman.
Yep. So this is it. He's settling down, and it's as if everything's gone away. But just at the point he thinks everything's gone away, he's contacted by one of the old guard. Excellent actor, this. Now,
So now
Edward Fox plays the colonel that he's talking to. He's just called Colonel. But Edward Fox, you might remember him from The Day of the Jackal.
Oh, yes.
Now, his son, Lawrence Fox, you might have noticed he's been in the social media a lot recently because he went on BBC Question Time and just basically called out the whole woke culture as crap. And they've been trying to destroy him ever since then. It happened about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But he's an excellent actor as well, Lawrence's son. But yeah, so that's Edward Fox. And he's trying to tell him there that what was the reason for the duel. Because he's found out that Gabriel Feraud's now a general. And he's trying to tell him, look, it was nothing to do with other than a lady that he was embarrassed in front of. Because when we go back to the start of the movie, he went to arrest him in front of the lady of the salon, and that's what started him.
Right. So he thinks his honor was impugned because he was brought down not in front of a lady.
But in his mind, it's
he would have found any reason. But that's the reason he's finding in his mind.
Yeah, and this is where he goes really nuts. And talks. He can't even remember the reason he started dueling. Also, because this was Ridley Scott's first movie, it was a low budget, and they couldn't afford to pay the actors as much as they wanted to. So Albert Finney, for instance, took payment in the form of a case of champagne from Ridley Scott.
Right.
Paid him with champagne.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Ridley Scott likes his drink too. Oh, and you can see the scar on his scalp where he got sliced on top of the head.
See, so the paranoia's coming in now. And of course now this, and within 100 days, obviously, yeah, as it's just said there, Napoleon is completely defeated. So here we go back again to the other order. So everybody who's just invested their allegiance one last time in the emperor is now completely destroyed.
Yep, the king is back.
Yeah. So the yeah.
So it looks like the wedding, huh?
This is it. This is the wedding, and I mean the character is not a royalist. He's somewhere in between, really.
Right. That's his friend, the doctor, right?
I'm not sure, but that his father-in-law now is.
He has Landry and whatever his title is.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I believe the emperor chose his own fate. It was his habit to do so. So that was another good answer. So you can see how the character of Dubert is always diplomatic and always wise in what he says.
Right.
He's always looking for resolution and
right.
peace out of conflict now, because he's seen his fair share of destruction. So that's a nice touch. Cutting the wedding cake with a saber.
Oh, God.
So now it's 1816. It's Paris.
What's your timestamp, please? I accidentally hit it when I sneezed.
Oh, it's 1 hour, 12 minutes, 30.
All right. Whatever. 21. All right. I'll catch you. I'll catch up sooner or later.
Now, so this is 1816 Paris, and
Is he talking to the guy on the street right there?
It was Edward Fox. He's just seen him now. Look at the state of him now. This is just 2 years later.
I always said you were a slippery fellow.
Yeah. Sorry, what I'm saying 2 years is 1 year later. And look at the state of him now. And now he's accusing him of being a traitor. Slippery.
So they're gonna execute him, huh?
So these old soldiers are either being executed or they're under house arrest or open arrest.
Right. So it's a good thing he didn't go with him. It's a pretty good thing he did not go, because he would have been on that as well as a general.
Napoleon was only ever interested in Napoleon, in my opinion. I'm sure other people have a different opinion of that. That's just my opinion. And with that, I would say that Dubert is doing the same thing, looking after his own interests, and didn't join up with.
For him, smart enough not to.
Yeah.
So is this?
This is where he goes to meet Albert Finney's character. He's playing a character called Fouché, and the point is that he makes an agreement with Fouché about, because he's now a very wealthy, powerful person, makes an agreement with Fouché about Feraud.
President of the commission, huh?
Yeah, because Feraud is going to be executed. This is the epitome of what he's like. This guy's been trying to kill him all his life.
He's a good man. He's not. He's as let's put it this way. Let's think about the time period when, going into a village and massacring someone was not a big deal. He's as good a guy for that time as you can possibly get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he treats his enemies honorably. No one does that.
Exactly.
This guy would let him rot, or this guy would actually know. If he were in prison, Feraud would break into the prison, bust him out of prison just to duel him.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Now, he's trying to make the point that there's no need to have him executed because he was only ever a loyal soldier, as much as the fact that he was also a psycho with the way he fought duels. He has no danger to cause a revolution. Albert Finney was one of the best actors ever, really was.
Right. He never really made it in America.
No, he was very much like avant-garde.
He's a character actor. He's a character actor, right? So I mean, you'd see him in stuff. You'd always see him in stuff, but you never really knew who he was.
Well, he was in the Bourne movies, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he had towards the end of his life, he had gravitas, and you knew his name, but you know, you couldn't really distinguish his early work if you didn't grow up with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good character actor that when you watch him, you just think that's a real character, rather than the overdramatic actors who wish to be noticed by everyone. But yeah, he's reached inner peace now, really. Armand.
That's the best situation. He saves his life, getting he shows he's got the noblesse oblige of sparing the man's life, and he's going to be under police supervision in the provinces. That should be good, right?
It should be. Yeah.
It should be.
And so there we go. So he's calling in the favor, and he's able to cross out the name.
Because then, if he told him that he saved his life, he would see that as a slight.
Exactly. Now that's in the short story as well. Towards the end of his life, he has to pay for a pension for the guy, and he says to his wife, "But Feraud can never find out. He can never find out that the money's coming from me. If he did find out it was coming from me, it would kill him. You know,
right.
He's that honourable that he sends money to him, but keeps it secret because he's not only sending money to him, but knows that the man couldn't stand knowing it, so keeps it hidden."
Well, think about it like this: they almost have they almost give each other purpose, like a symbiotic relationship, right? Like I said, going back to the two sides of the same coin analogy. Maybe he sees something in Feraud, like a darker half of himself that he could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could have ended up like that.
Mm-hmm.
If he bought all the Napoleon bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, we see here obviously the difference between the two men. So, for instance, he sits down alone to drink some brandy, whereas the other guy's got the perfect life. He's got a giant pipe,
right?
And he's
gorgeous
wife,
beautiful house, all the money in the world, friends in high places.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, back at the flea-ridden cafe, what timestamp do you have now, Cole?
I have 1 hour 20 and 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm at the same point. I'm maybe just a few seconds behind you. This is where his aide-de-camp, or whatever this guy is who helps him out, has found him mentioned in the papers because they're expecting a child or the marriage or whatever. And this is how they track him down. Beautiful beagles, then. I'm up to the point where he's walking around his land.
To the he's crossing the bridge, and he's met these two fellows there.
This excellent scene. The way that these scenes are set up, they're just like paintings, aren't they? you can imagine these as paintings from the Romantic era, and you've got this really dodgy-looking guy at the back with
It really big dodgy.
And this is the thing: the guy who looks like that with the patch on actually speaks very smoothly and beautifully. That's the weirdest thing.
You do look like
Hello,
scumbag.
would you mind directing us? It looks like that. Hello. So they're trying to call him out.
Honor before everything. He's challenging to a duel here.
Yeah. Slip out, slip back. Honor. And it's the idea that these people think they're still of equal standing with him now. And
we have proceeded under the assumption that you are a gentleman. Are you kidding me? After everything that scumbag general of theirs has done,
exactly,
they have a twisted like
twisted sense of duty and honor. Exactly, they think they can demand this.
Maybe
even though
society too.
Yeah,
saying something about like the.
It's like, well, I mean, they still believe they're in the Napoleonic period of, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from in society, you can be challenged like this. Whereas things have changed in France now. But this is more like the military law, I think. They're talking about the the fact that he's an old soldier, so he has to still conform. So going for pistols. And this is the final duel. So I believe this is duel. If we don't include Russia, because they didn't really fight,
right?
This is duel number 6. Is that right?
Yeah, it must.
We've got the short swords. Then we had the sabers in the cavern. Then we had the horseback.
We had small swords twice, I believe.
Small swords twice.
Sabers. We had sabers on foot. Small swords twice, horseback once. That's 4. And what else do they do?
No, so this must be 5.
This must be 5.
So this is, he's choosing his pistols very carefully. He's choosing the land where the fight's going to take place, the ruins where he lives.
Right.
He's choosing the weapons. He's choosing the exact pistols he wants. He's loading the way he wants them to be loaded.
Is he having his boots dealt with too?
These are a pair. Well, this is the idea that he's making him a pair of boots. So it's like,
oh, he's making his boots, and they're going to be ready in the morning.
Ready in the morning.
He goes down there and he's like, I might die tomorrow.
I'll see you in the morning. There's a bit of pathos. It's like he's weighing up his life and thinking, I might not come back alive. He slid away without telling his wife.
Right.
And
well, you know, at least they'll be well taken care of if he dies.
Mm-hmm. He's got his oranges. He literally looks like, you know, those like little animatronics they used to have outside the cobblers.
Yeah.
You know, the little happy cobbler.
Yep. He looks exactly like that. That is true.
So they've got a vermin problem in the house. Clearly. But that's a set piece. That's deliberate. There's several still lives. That's the same room he used earlier in the movie, where the other still life took place, where the doctor was. It's the same room.
It's like a nice crisp.
They just changed the
winter.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So this is a nice frost here. I mean, for a first movie, it's so good. The work is amazing. And he's just sitting here relaxing, eating his half-time oranges.
He's done running. He's home. He's done what he needs to do. He found his wife. He's has a child on the way.
Yeah.
If he dies, at least he'll die a happy man, having accomplished what he wanted.
Exactly.
So he's done running, and he's at ease, right? I'd say so.
Yeah, definitely.
And now these fucking scumbags come on. First of all, I set the hounds loose on these two.
Yeah, see, they're on his land.
I'd set the hounds loose on them.
Can you see that? Can you see that up on the hill? I think that's the same ruins that they walk around in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
See what he says? Your grounds are not suitable at all, and he's putting his foot down now and saying, "Oh, I think it'll do." In other words, if you want this to happen, it's going to happen here. And he says, if you want to kill each other, any ground suitable. You see now there. You see how Harvey Keitel, Gabriel Feraud, he's put the plaits back in his head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's trying to relive the point of where it all began, when he used to be a hussar all those years ago.
Right.
So we're going back like 20 years, and it's like he wants to. He realizes he's screwed up, and he wants to recapture or try it all over again, and killing Dubert in his head is the way to, put everything back on course again. So here we are with a pistol duel, and
this one's for keeps, man.
Yeah, this is the pièce de résistance, this duel, where they go off into the ruins, and this is one of the dueling methods where the first person would be given a few minutes to go up into the territory and find a place to hide, and then the other person would have to go in and find them, and it would be obviously like a battle royale type of thing.
Right.
And the way they're carrying the pistols there, obviously that's totally authentic, because you don't want them going off into your own body or whatever. So that's the safest way to carry them.
Yeah, he's basically just carrying it like you might carry a rifle if you're walking at what they call the route step, which is just not step with anybody, just walking.
So Harvey's got his crossed over like that.
A little cross draw action, like he's Lee Van Cleef or something.
Yeah. And both characters now are sort of going back through the past again.
Right. Probably trying to piece together what the hell happened.
Why are we doing this? Yeah.
Why is this happening?
Not so much Harvey, but definitely Keith Carradine's character.
Nice early morning. Yes, ruins, man.
That's an incredible scene there. Look at those ruins, man.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's one of the best scenes. I mean, so good that they found actual locations like this. This really makes the movie.
It does. Like we're saying, you cannot make a set like that. And
look at that.
Oh,
wow. Look at that shadow castle in the background.
That's probably supposed to be his house, right?
It's supposed to be on his grounds. This
lucky bastard. So I'm just going for my own mind. That's going to be his house in the background.
Yeah, and he just walked into the side entrance there, and he's going to go down. I think he goes down the gangplank into that other building, and Dubert sees him going that way. In the short story by Conrad, this is done in detail about how they can tell what the other person's going to do because they're both old soldiers. They know all the military tricks.
Right.
They hide behind a tree. And then jump one bit of cover. Yeah. So he's going down there.
He's going across the drawbridge.
He goes in just as he turns around, but he sort of knows that's where he's gone. He goes down that way because it's all about strategy, this last duel.
Yeah, he kind of does have to get into the mind of his opponent here to figure out what he would do, or else he's just. I mean,
So whereas the first duels, it was just, yes, it was technique, but it was also brawn,
it was
real strength, young men. And now they're older men. It's more cerebral.
It's 90% stamina, 10% technique, or
Yeah.
I'll go 80% stamina, 10%, 15% technique, 5% strength.
Yeah.
It really is. So he's just getting a breather here.
Yeah.
Oh,
and we can see there's him down, just hiding against the wall, waiting.
Thing.
And of course, he steps out, shoots him straight away. So he's used one shot, puts his pistol up on the ledge. Now he's got one shot left. This is amazing photography here. This as he comes up, and then of course he sees his foot quiver. Thinks he's got him. Can't get up because he's a little shorty.
Little shorty.
Can't quite see.
Oh, I wonder if they cast him because he's so short. Kind of has a Napoleon complex himself.
It's supposed to be like a symbol. It's supposed to be like a type of Napoleon.
Yeah, yeah. I get it. I dig what Ridley Scott.
They really make it obvious at the end of the movie as well. But this scene here, where he's reaching through the undergrowth, the photography, the colors, the sort of twilight, it's beautiful. The scene, and bang, how fast that was. I've watched that on slow motion. That bit of sandstone there getting shot out and him shooting back is about half a second. So now he's got him.
Now
he's got one shot left, and he's used his. La. And now he's got him. It's like, right, I can kill you anytime. So this is the point where Dubert can kill him, and Feraud really wants to be killed.
He does.
He wants to be killed because he can't stand the dishonor of living when he could have been killed. The dishonor of defeat.
Right. Which, to any sane person at this point, he's been a worthy adversary. Honor has been satisfied.
Yeah.
There is no dishonor in your defeat.
Yeah.
You both could have killed each other anytime. You're both good in my book.
Exactly.
But no. This is the mentality of the. But think about this. He kind of represents the bourgeois, right? The new money, the new middle class, right? He's trying to adopt the ways of the old wealth, of the aristocracy, and he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand how honor works because he has not behaved honorably. He's actually behaved dishonorably by acting like a fucking child every time.
And now he comes over. And now he comes back to his young wife who doesn't even know he's been away and what he's done. Oh, I've just been for a walk. And the lovely smile on her face when he pulls out from the bag oranges. Because she knows him. She's told her everything. She knows what his life used to be like. And so he's thinking, all right, well, she's saying, well, what's in the bag? Thinking that it's his pistols.
Right.
It's not, it's oranges. So, but that's in the book, he shares with her actually a lot more about how he's going to pay a pension for Feraud. He's going to look after Feraud without Feraud knowing where the money's coming from.
So he's walking away in defeat, looking up at the heavens, just sighing.
So this is very much like the little Napoleon.
Yeah, he even looks like he's wearing the same style horn hat.
He's trudging through the rain, through the woods.
Here we go. He's telling him.
And this is the ending monologue. There. So, and this. So it's a bit like the way Napoleon's been exiled.
Right.
So he's a man of honor.
He handled it the best way he probably could have.
Exactly. So this is the ending scene, and this is really the Napoleonic type of figure
As
staring out. It could indeed be Napoleon Alba, but it looks across the. This is a marvelous ending scene. It's so poetic,
gorgeous. Look at the fields down there.
Yeah, where the river's right, and the light is muted. The sun is just behind a cloud. Now Ridley Scott didn't. There's no CGI. This was real.
If nothing else, go look at a clip of this shot. If nothing else, seriously.
Yeah. And then he's just standing there, and he looks back for just an. This is it. He looks back just for an instant, and it's like he's just getting to the point of questioning his own conduct. Did I do the right thing, the wrong thing? Was it me? What should I have done differently? What could I have done differently if I could live it again? And then he just forgets and looks away. He just can't introspect. He'll never change.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks out at the countryside. And the music as well, this last score,
right?
Score is.
It's incredible. If you think about it, though, Pete, he kind of owes his entire existence to Hubert.
Exactly.
Because, would he have survived everything if he didn't have the possibility of fighting him again?
Exactly.
For all that?
Yeah. What would he have been without the revolution, etc.? So, yeah, the regret is there, definitely. Right at the end, he shrugs slightly. And that's all you get. That's the only outward sign that he realizes where he's gone in his life. And of course, for Armand Hubert, it's finally redemption. Finally, that weight around his shoulder has gone. So what did you think overall?
I liked it. I really liked it. It was pretty fast paced, considering it's kind of, if you think about it, and you kind of like listen to the score and everything, kind of has the feel of like one of those plodding period pieces that kind of just trudges on. But this doesn't, and it is actually, I enjoyed it. I think it's because they broke it up into the different quick vignettes of now we're in where the hell did they go? They were in Strasbourg. Now we're in here.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped with the pacing because it didn't dwell in any single place too long. So the scenery was constantly changing, and the sort of what was going on at the time changed as well. The only thing that didn't change was this goddamn psychopath is chasing him across, France and Europe and all over the place just to fight him. So, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And I thought the uniforms were fantastic. The scenery was gorgeous.
Yeah.
The score, like you said, it really kind of takes you into the period. So I think they did a good job with it. The places the places that were supposed to look dirty and gritty looked dirty and gritty. The places that were supposed to look genteel and refined looked genteel and refined. And I appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the overriding impression for me when I first saw the movie, and I've seen it several times, but I haven't seen it in quite a while, which explains why I had to remind myself of a few things, was just the authenticity of it. And for a first movie,
I know where you're going. One thing I wanted to reiterate before I forgot is this film is a film of contrast. It's a film of basically showing different sides of the coin. Like, because, for instance, we have Hubert and Feraud, right? Contrast those two. Then you can also contrast when they were in French society and when they were in the French countryside with when they were in when they were in Lubeck, how disgusting and run down and just low class it was. Mm-hmm. So it kind of it's a compare and contrast of how society was, a compare and contrast of these personalities. So in that regard, it kind of gives you a broader picture, and I appreciate that because that gives you more of an insight.
Yeah, I think he was onto a winner because, sometimes Ridley Scott's accused of he's great at creating what you call a tableau, which is the feel and the look of a movie. And then sometimes the story isn't as good as it could be.
But what in the hell is wrong with having a tableau like that? I mean,
yeah,
that the story itself is a very simple story, but that it benefits from that setting and that tableau, as you put it, because a lot the setting and the scenery is telling a lot of the story, and that helps with the pacing because you're not focusing on explaining where you're at, what you're looking at, who these guys are, and what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
So for the way Ridley Scott made this film, at least, if that's a criticism that really holds on merit because it worked for this film.
Yeah, and in retrospect as well, I think it only gets better with time because one of the accusations at the time is, as we know, cinema is not, in my opinion anyway, cinema is not as good as it used to be. And I'm not being nostalgic and biased in that way. I really believe that cinema was more sophisticated than it is now.
Here's a really good example of Ridley Scott. I mean, Blade Runner he has that tableau. He sets the tone, the feeling, and everything, and tells part of the story with his visuals and his sound and everything. And that film, without that, it doesn't matter how good the story is. It's not the same film. It's not going to be as good.
I mean, one of the accusations was that it was beautiful and everything, but as soon as Keitel and Carradine opened their mouth, it shatters the illusion. Well, I think that's snobbery because I don't care that they have American accents because they're French. What do they want them to do? Speak with a French accent all the way through the movie? I mean, that's not necessary for the story.
Someone brought that up as a criticism because I didn't even think about that while watching that. Because I was
from Newsweek.
I was taken in by the music and the scenery and just what they were actually talking about.
Yeah,
I was taken in with that.
Well, it's the kernel of an amazing idea based upon a true military legend of two guys who fought over 30 duels over 20 years. I didn't even know that. I've read the short story, but I didn't realize it was. I knew it was based on a true story, but I didn't realize that's how far they went. So you've got the kernel of a solid idea based on a real military legend, a story, and then expounded upon by one of the best writers ever, Conrad, and then made into a movie by one of the best directors ever, Ridley Scott. So where do you go wrong? I mean, one of the things that people do say about this movie, which is I agree with, that it's praised for its historically authentic portrayal of the uniforms of the Napoleonic era, the military conduct, the culture, as well as the generally accurate fighting techniques. Because you were picking out some of those. You said that's good because you noticed that doesn't crop up very often with period dramas.
Yeah,
and they made a point of putting the real fencing techniques in this.
Especially when they're fighting with the sabers, that was good. When
yeah,
fighting with the sabers, both times on horseback as well. They were doing it right.
Well, this is it. I was saying that Ridley Scott really does try to get it right, and he had a fight choreographer on the movie set called William Hobbs. He had a military historian on the set as well called Richard Holmes. So he really wanted to get it right. So I think this really is one of the undersung movies. People don't know this movie well enough, and I wish more people would watch it because this is right up there with Blade. Is it on a par with Blade Runner? I don't know, but it's certainly up in that direction. And I really enjoyed watching the movie again. So thanks to everybody who's watched tonight. And with that, we'll both wish you a very good night. It's good night from me and from Carl.
Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Pete.
Good night.